Hi, welcome to Nara's Method podcast. My today's guest is Giancarlo Zazzeri, who is holistic counselor, shamanic sound, and energy healer. Welcome, Giancarlo.
Hello,
Um,
nice to
uh,
be here.
nice to meet you too. I'm very happy to have you here. And tell us more about what you do because I'm going to have difficulty explaining everything and introducing you properly. So
Okay,
tell us what you do.
okay. Well, let's say that I work in the holistic environment for many years. I'm a senior, let's say, practitioner in the holistic environment. And it's quite a long story, to be honest, okay, because my story starts from childhood, okay. My uncle was a shaman and he pressed the on button when I was 13 years old. And from there, my life took a certain direction, of course. And yes, I was living a certain period of my life where I was running away from that part of myself. I was running away from the shaman, okay. When I was more into my adult life, I had a military career, and it was a very, very good career as well. Years in the military career, running away from the shaman. But, let's say using that authentic part of myself to make the best out of my choice as well, okay? And even this is a very long story. I'm about to write a book about myself, of course. And what can I say? Well, it's always been my driven attitude, okay, since my childhood to understand the underlying mysteries of life, of the universe, who we are, where we come from, okay, studying the human behavioral nature and trying to understand where the spirit is, of course. I've always had this question roaming around in my head since I was a child, okay? And it must be from family background because it's epigenetics, okay? I was raised in a family that never opposed that part of myself because my mother understood these things. Of course, my uncle, of course, was a shaman, and my dad as well never opposed, and they were very open to it. And so I grew up in a context that quite facilitated that part of myself, let's say, okay, where I used to see things as well. I used to, let's say, see different realities overlapping in between themselves, because it clearly states that we are indeed not only living in a world how we perceive it in our human sense. Of course, we live in a reality which is far more ample, far more vast. We are living in a multidimensional context, okay? And in a multidimensional context, life has the tendency to manifest, to thrive, to exist, to evolve in certain ways, okay? So, life isn't the only way we know it to be here on Earth in its three-dimensional form, in its carbon-based, let's say, nature. Life exists in many dimensional frequencies, okay? Even on the level of energy, intelligent, sentient energy, of course. And this is a very, very vast topic indeed. But anyway, I was always pushed to help people understand themselves, okay, to help people enhance their lives, but especially to enhance the relationship with themselves, which is the key factor to enhance life on all levels of their existence, like family, work, and whatsoever they decide to do in their lives, of course. And we are indeed living in a very fast-paced world. It's very demanding. Society is very demanding, okay? And there is lots of psychological pressure going on. Many people have lost, let's say, the key concept of identity that then determines what a character is really meant to be, what a person is really meant to be, okay? And many people out there are so lost, okay, in certain concepts of pushing themselves in a very unhealthy competitive way. And the consequence is a high percentage of people who have many psychological disturbances like PTSD, people go borderline, many people feel very helpless in this context, okay? Because now they are seeing the existence, their very existence, or what society puts in front of them, like a mountain which is impossible to climb, okay? Why? Because we have lost, let's say, in time, that authentic concept of sense of identity that really determines who we are on the level of character. And this means connection with our authentic self, okay? Staying constantly in our power, having, let's say, a more creative and free perspective upon things that helps us to get along with this type of lifestyle in a more healthy and constructive, but even a more inspirational way. Okay, and this means being empowered, like as a human being. So, with all this talking, the mainstay of my work is human empowerment through the concept of shamanism, spirituality, and of course through the concept of holistic counseling, where science encounters spirituality. It is a metaphysical approach, of course.
Can I ask you a question? You said your uncle pressed the button. What do you mean by that?
Yes.
What
Okay.
happened?
Well, let's say that at the age of 13, I got to know this very particular person on the island of Mauritius. Okay. His name was Joel. And I had a huge infection on my kneecap when I was there on holiday. Okay. And they took the family members, they took me to the doctor. And the doctor gave me, let's say, the necessary medicines and the antibiotics to get rid of the infection, but nothing occurred. It was just getting worse. So someone had the idea, let's take him to Uncle Joel, and most of them opposed because, you know, there were certain family members that believed in the ancient ways and others that pinpointed him as the crazy of the situation. Okay, the schizophrenical guy, the crazy. They wanted to close him in a institution. So they took me to this guy. He used to live isolated in a little hut, I remember. And entering this place, I used to see symbols of ascended masters, sacred geometry, and all sorts of things typical that you also see in a nowadays holistic environment as well, okay? And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And he looked at me and he already understood what I was all about because I already had certain gifts since my childhood. And what did he do? He took a very simple green leaf, he put it on the knee, and he started to do sacred geometrical patterns with his finger, tracing it, not touching the knee, but tracing it. Sacred geometrical patterns around the knee with his finger. And I recognized it as what is considered to be the Metatron cube. Okay, it's a certain sacred geometrical pattern which is a triangle pointing upwards incastenated in a triangle pointing downwards. Okay, it is also known to be the Merkaba. It's called the Merkaba as well, or the flower of life. And he was then just reciting certain prayers and mantras, and the kneecap just went down. It went down, okay? And then he looked at me and said, John, he said in a certain way, welcome to the club, because you know who you are and you will get to know who you really are. You will really get to know who you are further down the track. You're running away from yourself, of course, but at a certain point, you will get to know who you are. And he did certain symbols on me, and it was an initiation. Okay? So in a certain way, from there on, going down my life, it was an escape from that part of myself. But let's say, at the same time, I knew that a legacy had to be continued. And I arrived up to a certain point of my life where I decided to take the step to continue the legacy, okay? I was already doing it in secrecy when I was in the military because I was having two parallel lives, by the way, okay? Because I was very particular, okay? Let's say that a particular story of my life was that where I was working in the town where I was, I knew people, okay, that were very troubled. I used to sense the trouble when people who are troubled. I had this empathy, okay, to understand if people were really troubled and people were even on the verge of, let's say, committing a very extreme act, okay, going suicidal. And I used to take note of where these people used to live, okay? Lonely women, lonely men, for an example. And in my free time, I used to take the service car and go around in my free time and knock on their doors and have a conversation with them. And it just takes one conversation to save a life, really. One conversation to save a life. And one conversation even to change the life of a person as well. And this is what I used to do. And the rate of suicidal mortality in that place just dropped down. The percentage just dropped down. So this is a part of my life, of course. Yes.
Which event, what happened that you decided to go with the path that was meant for you?
Well, let's say that part of myself was getting more and more, let's say, manifested, okay? It's a feeling, it's a gut feeling. You know that you're not on, you know that that pathway isn't meant to be anymore, even if it was a good pathway. So the day arrived, and parallelly, I was already doing courses, doing teachings. I was opening schools as well to create professional holistic practitioners, and now it was really becoming a huge branch on my personal tree of life. So the times were mature. So the day arrived, and I suddenly presented myself to my direct commander, and I said, listen, yeah, from tomorrow I'm not coming back. What do you mean, Gian? Are you crazy? Are you ill? Are you tired? Because, I was highly considered. I reached a high level as well. And no, I mean that from tomorrow I'm not coming back ever again. I've decided to change life. Are you crazy, Gian? You're 2 steps from your pension and your career is going great and we highly consider you. It's shocking for us. If you need days, you need a psychologist, I can help you. Maybe you're very tired and you may change your mind. Just think about it. Take a month, go away for a month and come back, and I know that you're going to change your mind. And I said, no, I was very firm, stern. No, from tomorrow I'm not coming back. I'm done. I've decided to change my life. And what will you do from now on? You're earning a good wage. How about your pension, your future? Don't worry. I've already got everything planned. So I left the badge and everything and all the necessary. And when everyone got to know it, in an environment like this, it's a very, let's say, manly environment, okay, we have to say. And, for them, the sense of honor is arriving until the end to a certain thing that you choose to do, okay? So for them, arriving at the end of the career, it's, and giving up before is dishonorable, okay? It's like an act of cowardice in a certain way, but they don't show it to you visibly, but they make you understand it. So from being considered a good, loyal, and honorable person, I was just, I was walking down the corridor and I saw all the colleagues turning up on the corridor. It was like walking down the corridor of dishonor.
Walk of shame.
It was the walk of shame, you understand, because they were looking at me and they were clearly disagreeing with my choice. But then I went out of the corridor, I opened the door, I breathed the fresh air, my ego kicked in. Gian, are you sure about this choice? Go back and tell them that it was a prank, even if it's not April yet. Okay? But then suddenly I saw a white van passing by. It was so white. And I saw a number plate, 444, which is the number of the spirit guides. And then and then other voices kicked in and said, it was the voice of the ancestors. Gian, now you're being truthful to yourself. No more running away. Just go through the courtyard, go through the gate, and don't turn back anymore. And this is how it occurred.
What was happening in your head when you were like, what was the thought process when you went to and said that I'm quitting?
Huge conflict. Because, to be truthful to ourselves, it takes a huge amount of courage and responsibility. Because you're really jumping into something which is an abyss, a void, okay? And you don't know what's going to happen the next day. So it's a leap of faith. And the leap of faith is facing the divine, and you see the divine like a huge abyss, and it frightens you. And you feel so lonely. Nobody's helping you in this but yourself. And the only thing that you can trust is, at this point, the divine. Jump into the abyss and let the abyss hold you. This is what it's about. Yes, I was very frightened, very frightened. But the real part prevailed. So at the end of the day, I didn't betray myself. And 99% of people in this world, in this modern society, every day betray themselves. They don't have the responsibility to take courage to stand up for themselves and to understand what it truly means to be truthful to yourself. And this is identity.
Yes, so I wanted to ask you regarding the identity lost. What do you mean by that?
Well, identity loss is an issue that I believe that comes from epigenetics, okay? From childhood as well. It's the way we are raised, and even before we are born, we have already lost our identity, okay? For how this society is structured, for how people learn to address themselves in this society. Even before we are born, we have already lost our identity, if we have to think about it, because it's epigenetics. Now, when we're talking about epigenetics, we're talking about the ancestral lineage, okay? We're talking about our heritage, our legacy. When we go back in time, okay, we have our ancestors, of course, okay? But at a certain point, we have ancestors that haven't made anything good out of their lives, okay? From the origins, we have the original ancestors, the pure ones, the ones that have started a legacy, a powerful, potent, authentic legacy that makes us who we are meant to be. They have, and this is, let's say, ancestral cultural heritage. It is embedded within our DNA. But then time passes and modern society kicks in with other types of beliefs. A cooperative belief, a consumistic belief, a competitive belief. It's unhealthy, of course, okay? We lose track on our authentic, powerful ancestral lineage that makes us who we are really meant to be, okay? And suddenly there is this interruption, okay? From, let's say, going backwards from the 5th generation, for an example, okay? An interruption. And from there on, through this interruption, there is, let's say, a chain reaction of another type of ancestral inheritance which is unhealthy. It takes us away from the authentic vision of ourselves. And if we think about the tree of life, for an example, and the tree of life is the symbol of the DNA, okay? The DNA resembles, is the tree of life, and we all have our personal tree of lives. If we look into the matrix, the very nature of our DNA, and to see the traces, these ancestral traces that determines the function of our DNA on energy level, on biological level, that then determines how our subconscious mind works as well, to then how our subconscious mind works as well. And of course, this then predetermines our mindset, our character. We have the negative ancestral lineage and we have the powerful positive ancestral lineage that has been interrupted from the negative ancestral lineage, okay? And in the negative ancestral lineage, what do we have? Ancestors that have never resolved anything in their lives, that have stopped, that have quitted to believe in themselves, that have lost trace on their authenticity, of their authentic origins. Ancestors that have been ill, ancestors that have had emotional disturbances, ancestors that have failed in their lives, ancestors that have never resolved their anger issues, or ancestors that have quite lost themselves, okay? Beggars, criminals also. You never know. We've all got this within ourselves, okay? So what to do with this? Of course, we have to find a way to tap into our ancestral lineage to communicate with our DNA. It is a metaphorical journey, okay? and to see it as a tree of life that needs cleansing. We have to cleanse the branches from the photographs that aren't needed, the photographs of the angry ones, the photographs of those who have failed, who feel helpless, and then reprogram this tree to, let's say, recognize again the ancestral trace, the positive ancestral trace that has been interrupted. Okay, so it is genetical reprogramming. This is what us shamans also do to people. Okay, this is what I guide people into as well through my sessions. Okay, because beyond this, if we look at the silver line, the silver and golden traces of the positive ancestors, we have the wise kings, the wise queens, we have the wise warriors, we have also the healers, the shamans, we have the philosophers, we have the architects, those who have made a great difference throughout history from our family background. We have the wise ones. So this is where we have to reprogram our DNA to pick up the true sense of character, individuality, and to pick up the necessary key to even have power in our destiny and to go where we are needed to go.
How does one identify that they are not living their real identity, that they're not being true to themselves?
Well, it's a sensation, really, okay? Because when an example can be mental procrastination, and this means even living a lifestyle that isn't yours, but you're just giving up to it, and you're living it as a comfort zone, okay? And this rather has the tendency to fade away the authentic state of being and to create upon the authentic state of being some sort of persona, which one believes is their character, but it's only a coping mechanism to justify a life that they don't like. But where is the justification? I can't do anything about it. I can't change it. This is the way the world goes. And even if I'm unhappy, at least it's making me feel safe the same. And I'd rather stay this way instead of risking everything to be who I am truly meant to be. But the meaning of who you are truly meant to be really makes the big difference, because it moves energetically that type of stagnating situation. It breaks the circle, it opens doorways, and it guides you through an authentic life-changing experience. But of course, it takes courage to realize, let's say, that you are in some sort of stagnating mindset. It's like traveling on a boat, on an old wooden boat in circles. You understand? And you're just there sitting on this boat, and there is no direction, but you are just sitting on this boat, and you think, okay, this boat is keeping me from drowning. I'm still floating, but I'm traveling around in circles, and okay, may it be like this until my old age. No direction at all. So it takes courage to break that circle, of course, okay? If you even arrive until your old age, because it can be a very unhappy circle. People become ill for this, okay? People become psychologically ill and physically ill for this, okay? So there are many people trapped in this psychological drama, this circle, this old boat that keeps going around, and nobody has the courage to burn the boat, to burn their old self in that boat, and to really understand what it means to rewrite themselves in the utmost empowering and authentic way, which means finally no more roaming around in circles on that boat, but seeing a land on the horizon.
What would be your advice for people who have the sensation and they have the feeling that something needs to be changed, but they don't know what to do with it?
Well, you see, many people don't have the time to think about this. Okay, they just keep moving. They live their days. The thought is, okay, I have to arrive at work in time. I have to do this. I've got these assignments. I'm feeling hungry. Let's eat. And then after, only little time to eat, and I have these assignments. And then, okay, home, I'm stressed. I'm so tired, and I need to rest, and I'm stressed. And okay, now I'm going home, family, but I'm stressed. Leave me alone. And they don't have the energy and the time to think. But you see, sometimes in life, at least 5 minutes, just wake up 5 minutes earlier, look at yourself in the mirror, take a few steps backwards and look at yourself in the mirror and start to learn how it truly means to breathe while looking at yourself and to think, okay? Because there are many people who think that they can think, but they are not thinking because they don't have the time to truly think and reflect. Just 5 minutes of solitude with yourself, silence. Just look at yourself in the mirror and start really understanding what it means to think and reflect. And when you start to understand what it means to think and reflect, then you start to understand that, okay, have I really been doing things right in my life for myself? Is all this around me the result of me really doing things really according to who I truly am? Or is it just a construct that I'm using to hide myself from myself? You understand? When people start to reflect on this level, this is the kickstart. And of course, it creates disturbancy. It creates, let's say, uncomfortable thoughts. Okay? Very uncomfortable thoughts. Uncomfortable emotions bubble up. Uncomfortable questions start to come up. Inner conflict. But when this inner conflict comes out, this is shadow work, okay? And many people don't have the courage to go deeply into this level of shadow work. They just stay on the surface. They scratch the surface. Okay, I feel relaxed and that's enough. But then the day is always the same. So it means, really understanding how to reflect, dedicating those moments of silence to yourself, not doing anything. Look at yourself. May life itself be the mirror, the reflective mirror of what you are bound to understand in this part of reflection. Learn to stay alone with yourself. Because it's important to learn to stay alone with yourself, even in these few minutes, even 1 hour. Wake up earlier, learn to stay alone with yourself. Learn to truly understand what it means to think, to reflect, and then you start to understand what it means to take courageously responsible steps that are necessary to change your life or to enhance your life.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's difficult to be alone with yourself without distractions, because when you're saying alone, like we could think like, oh, you would be on your phone, browsing, or you would be doing some action still, but just, being still.
Well, people are frightened of this. Why? Because they're frightened to realize that they have made wrong choices in their lives. And they keep distracting themselves and using distraction as a scapegoat to run away from themselves.
How to fight that? How to fight the fear when you feel that there is change that needs to be done and it has to be done?
Yes.
Deep inside, that it has
Of
to be
course.
done, but it's just so many external inconvenience that you're going to cause by
of course,
changing something for yourself. How do you fight that fear that comes with it?
Well, you see, fear is one of the main factors of our life, okay? It will always be with us. You can't fight it because it will always be there and it will come back stronger. You have to learn to live with it. You have to learn to sit in your fear. You have to learn to meditate silently in your fear, reflect on your fear, and then slowly, because it is a slow and patient process. You have to learn to observe your fear. And slowly, it's like taming a beast. Okay, it's like taming a dragon that initially wants to eat you all up, okay, or wants to burn you to the ground. But you need the courage to face this dragon initially. Don't turn your back. Walk towards it. Sit with it. Soak into it. And slowly, it will become your ally and it will become your strength. It will become your assertiveness, you understand? And it will make you feel alive as well at the same time.
So when you feel fear, it's helping you to be assertive?
Yes, it helps you to be assertive, okay? Because it's a part that helps us to forge that part of our character which is called assertiveness, okay? Which means integrating the shadow with the light and furtherly empowering the light with the shadow, using the shadow as an ally to furtherly empower the light side, okay? And this is putting yourself out in the world in an assertive way. Knowing what is right and what is wrong for yourself, or what is good or what isn't unnecessary, let's say, okay?
And so fear is a negative emotion, right? As we like, it's perceived.
Well, we see it as a negative emotion.
Yeah.
But we have to understand how to face the negativity as an advantage to make us become stronger in who we truly are. This is the equation of inner growth, okay? This is the main equation of inner growth that many people are frightened to understand.
You do energy healing,
Yes,
right?
I do energy healing.
It's
Yes.
tell me more about it. What is it all about, and how does it work,
Okay.
and how is it
Yes.
connected to you being a shaman?
Well, let's say that when I was running a holistic school in Italy, and I was running a holistic school in Italy, and I was thinking about creating new modalities of energy healing, okay? And understanding how the universe works on energy terms, even in the terms of quantum physics, energy fields and everything. And there are so many energy healing methods out there, like Reiki, access bars, theta healing. And suddenly I decided to create a modality based upon shamanistic rituals, hypnosis, quantum physics, and of course, energy healing, okay? 4 of these things put together to create a complete modality. And I decided to call it Transcendental Quantum Healing initially. And my old students used to experiment it because we used to verify if it effectively worked. And it's based upon, let's say, the concept of sacred geometry, of course. A part of ourself which has been dormant for so many years, so many years. And I'm talking about the higher heart chakra, okay? Because the energy of the earth has shifted, of course. We are living very profound times of changes, okay? And it's a very long story to explain. Due to certain cosmic phenomena, the energy field of the earth has changed. And we are starting to, let's say, be reawakened on spiritual level, on a very more elevated level now, okay? And it can recall the times of how humanity was in Atlantis, the times of Atlantis, because in the times of Atlantis, humanity was a very advanced civilization, consciously, technologically, but it was a technology made with, it was a very ecological and advanced technology, okay? It was technology done with consciousness, okay? This is where spirituality used to travel with science at the same time. It is quite a challenge nowadays, but now we've got this energy center being reawakened within ourselves. It is the higher heart chakra, which is in between the throat and the lower heart chakra. And it is known to be in TQR as the Merkaba of life. The Merkaba is also known to be like the Metatron cube. It is an etherical, sacred geometrical form, which is a 4-sided pyramid that points upwards, incastenated in a 4-sided pyramid that points downwards, that generates the masculine and energy feminine of the divine. And then we've got in the very center this, let's say, the divine energy, okay? The energy of oneness, which I personally like to call divine singularity. And we have this thing within ourselves, this energy temple within ourselves, right at the height of the thymus, okay? And this energy modality, which was called Transcendental Quantum Healing, which is now known to be Transcendental Quantum Reiki in illuminations, works much on this aspect of ourselves. It activates this part of ourselves to make us become divine portals, okay? Divine portals and divine channelers of this supreme divine energy on cosmic level, okay? That is channeled through this energy center of ours, and it manifests on the human level of existence for the benefits of ourselves and for other people. But it is a modality that makes the energy flow in a very far more amplified way, of course. Yes. And it is an integrative modality, of course, because when you go through certain activations of TQR, the abbreviation of the modality is called TQR because I understand that the name is a bit complicated, Transcendental Quantum Reiki, but this is a sense of transcendence because we are the infinitely great that transcends to the infinitely small. We are the infinite encased in infinite spaces over and over again. And this is the sense of the embodiment of oneness, okay? Well, let's say that once you go through certain activating, let's say, steps of Transcendental Quantum Reiki, you have your energy field raised to a certain level that furtherly enhances any other therapeutic holistic approach, okay? Let's say that you are a massage therapist and you have done transcendental quantum Reiki, okay? And you've gone through certain activations of your energy fields, okay? You've activated your inner Merkaba, for an example. You have a certain energy running through your hands that furtherly amplifies the effects of the massage therapy, for an example, okay? If you want to use massage as the backbone of your work and not necessarily transcendental quantum Reiki, which is mainly a no-touch modality, you manifest this energy of oneness in between your hands. It's like holding the very heart of the universe, okay? And you send it to people. But it is a no-touch modality. But if you want to integrate this modality into other modalities, it furtherly empowers other modalities, okay? I clearly understood this when I was teaching it in USA, New York. And most of the students there were advanced Reiki practitioners, okay, and Reiki masters. And in that time, it wasn't called Transcendental Quantum Reiki, okay? It was called Transcendental Quantum Healing, the usual name. And I was back in New York to teach the second level. They came back and they were sharing me their experiences after level 1. And they clearly stated that it furtherly amplified their capabilities as Reiki practitioners. The energy was flowing in a far more powerful way. The results were faster, and the results were also becoming permanent on their clients. That's what they stated. And they insisted, we consider it like an upgrade. It's like another step forward. So why don't you put the word Reiki into it? And of course, I firmly refused, okay? Because it is not like it's totally not like the traditional Reiki. It has nothing to do with the traditional Reiki, to be honest, okay? And I knew that if I would have put the name Reiki to it, it would have created problems in the community of those who do traditional Reiki. But they insisted, and I continued to say no. But while they were doing practice amongst themselves, there was the photo of Uzui in the room. And suddenly the room became cloudy. And when this occurs, I know that I'm starting to channel, because since my childhood had the capability to go into deep states of trance and channel other beings, okay? And I learned how to control it, but this time it just arrived in an uncontrolled way. The room became the room started to lose its three-dimensional form, and I was just in this cloud of energy. And the students were like shadows moving in this cloud of energy. And the only thing that remained clear was the photo of Uzui. And I thought, this is a very curious thing. Why? What's going on here? And suddenly, I felt his hand touching my shoulder, and he looked at me and said, Gian, yeah, listen, these students have learned the traditional ways, some of them, okay? And everything changes. Everything is change. Reiki is change. Everything is transformation. We can't continue to live our lives like a caterpillar. And we can't also be trapped in a cocoon of our false beliefs and in our fears. We have to take courage and to step out of the cocoon of our false beliefs and fears and be a butterfly and fly into the sky of inspiration, of creativity and universe. The universe is inspiration. The universe is creative energy, okay? And that means change, transformation. So we have to embrace the change. So think about it. And then he just disappeared. And I was coming out of the trance, and the students were waiting for me. They were a bit worried because they saw me very spaced out. And I told them what I experienced, and wowee, they were already celebrating, okay? But I had to think about it deeply before putting the name Reiki, because it's responsibility as well, okay? Because there are so many modalities of Reiki, okay? So many. From the traditional to angelic Reiki, to the law of attraction Reiki, to abundance Reiki, so many modalities which aren't really Reiki. But the paradox is that when we are talking about energy healing energy healing can be anything at the same time. Okay? Even our very presence can be energetically healing. When a transcendental quantum Reiki practitioner, after undergoing certain initiations and activations, is vibrating on a certain energy level through the activation of the Merkaba that then amplifies and activates the auric field in a certain way. It's not a question of, okay, relax, and I'm going to put my hands near to you and send energy. It's the very presence of a person now that shifts the energy in a room. So this is what it's all about, the presence of a person. We are living intents, okay? So this is the concept.
I have a question. From whatever you're explaining, how do you explain tightness in chest and when we feel anxiety and panic, and why is it that we feel it in our chest exactly where you're describing? Why is it that?
That's the thymus, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, this is the energy. This is our spiritual center. This is where our subconscious mind gives us many signals. Okay, and this is where our soul talks to us, and it's clearly telling us there is something that we have to clearly understand, and there is something that we have to do about it as well. There is something that we have to change within ourselves. It is a signal coming from the soul. And of course, the soul communicates from here nowadays, okay? When we were cavemen, okay, and cave women, we used to feel it from the second chakra because we were very instinctive, okay? We were primordial, we were in the state of survival, but now we are living in a world that is giving us the opportunity to thrive and not to survive, okay? We are in the level of thriving now, okay? So our spiritual center now has shifted up here, and we are invited to understand it now. And this is where the voice of our truthfulness comes out. It is a sensation. We have to sit into the sensation and soak into the sensation and let the mind connect to the sensation, to have our own personal interpretation where we learn to become the solution to ourselves. So we should never ever have doubts on this, okay? It is a signal, and it's our soul telling us there is something that we have to adjust in our lives, and we have to do something about it before we permit this situation to overpower us, okay?
On which levels? On which levels do we, like it's signaling for what? For spirituality, for which area in life? If that's I don't know if it's even correct way of putting it, but
Well, it signals us in many ways, okay, but the most common ways is, okay, it's a sensation that inspires us, or it's an uncomfortable sensation in the terms of stress and anxiety, where we are invited to understand that there is something to change in our lives. Maybe we are taking too many responsibilities on our shoulders that aren't ours, that isn't our responsibility, like in family, for an example, which is a classic, or on work, we are being too good, for an example, okay? Now we have to understand what it means to be good, but being at the same time good to ourselves, and we have to understand the difference between being good but over-giving as well. That makes us naive, okay, where we are taking too many responsibilities on our shoulders. We don't know and understand how to take care of ourselves because we are not giving value to ourselves. You see, when we have this heaviness related to stress and anxiety, the soul is clearly telling one important word: value. Give value to yourself, to understand who you are and to trust what you are capable of doing, to then have the courage to take the responsibility, to change your attitude, and to make eventual plans to make sure that you're not taking too much on your shoulders anymore, but you are even important to yourself in life. And to send that signal out to people who are taking advantage of your naive side, you understand? So transform that, let's say, naiveness into assertiveness, of course, okay? So it's good to be good, but it's also not good to be nice. We have to understand that type of difference, okay?
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because we are always like being conditioned to be good and to be, you know, a good boy and good girl and a
Yes.
nice person. It's good to be a nice person. So now what you're saying is totally like it's crashing my belief system. It's like, okay, is it
Now,
okay to be bad? Is it okay to be? Do you mean like is it not? We should say no to things, or like what do you mean?
now, we have to understand what it means to have a healthy relationship with ourselves and with others. And it also means having the courage and knowing that it's good to say no as well, okay, for our personal well-being. But this no becomes a lesson, an important lesson for people who are always used to receiving a yes from you as well. Because, you know, it's learning to be responsible to yourself, where you become an inspirational figure in time to teach other people to be responsible of themselves, to find the solution to themselves, to be a solution to themselves. And of course, for many people who are trapped in their egotistical and narcissistical traits, where they only want to accept a yes from other people and they are like spoiled children, of course they will pinpoint you as being the bad person. But, you know, it's easy to judge a person being bad if a person says no. But why don't you look at yourself and to understand what is the real difference between what is good, necessarily good, and what is unnecessarily good? You understand? So it's a question of setting out the necessary boundaries, okay? And this this concept of setting out the necessary boundaries is learning how to understand how to set out social boundaries, okay, towards people who can be more intrusive in your life and, let's say, create a disadvantage for yourself regarding how you need to take care for yourself, rather than people who understand your nature, they respect and honor your nature, and even receiving a no from you is understandable. It's okay for themselves as well, because they can get along with their lives as well, you understand? So it's a question of wisdom as well, good common sense.
Common sense, that's not common at all
Of
nowadays.
course, yes.
It's not common at all, and it's
And we're talking about psychological hygiene
yeah.
that then keeps us healthy and fit in life as well.
Saying no, and so I think because of the way the families are structured and society is structured is not doesn't benefit others when you say no.
Of course, but you know, it takes courage and responsibility, because we have to learn when it's the right time to say no and when it's the right time to say yes, okay?
When are you selfish?
It's a question of
Yeah.
balance,
Yeah.
okay? Where this selfishness isn't being selfish, but it is the spirit of self-preservation that
Okay.
helps you eventually to become a better person. And when that yes comes out, you execute it in the utmost powerful and inspirational way. You see, there is a difference between saying yes when you are truly ready, and when you get things done, you get things done in a very empowering and inspirational way, and you are an inspiration for other people, rather than saying yes, feeling forcefully obliged to say it, and you're tired and you need time for yourself, but you don't have the courage to say no. But what are you giving in the end? You're not giving your empowering inspiration. You're not favoring a situation to furtherly evolve, but you are just giving out your tiredness. You're giving away an energy that isn't needed. And people, in the end, are just feeding on your tiredness. You understand? And this is the so-called famous vampirical situation,
Yes.
okay? Yes.
So how would you identify being selfish or self-preservant? What would be the difference, and how could you consult yourself? How would you know that this is I'm being selfish right now, or am I being self-preservant?
Well, when we look at the selfishness, okay, in its negative way, okay, being mean and selfish, okay? This is a narcissistic trait, okay? And it is something that I believe that should also be addressed, of course, okay? And, you know, it's just like, okay, even if the world is ending tomorrow, I'm okay today, for an example, okay? Because, or let's say, even if this person is really needy, I'm okay and I don't care, okay? You know, this is a type of unhealthy, this is the unhealthy way of saying no, of course, okay? But when we are talking about taking care of ourselves, being honest and sincere with ourselves, okay? This is what it's all about. It's not about being selfish, but it's the spirit of what I said, self-preservation. It's doing what is right in certain moments, but for a higher purpose. You see, if I am tired today, I need rest. But if I get that rest today, tomorrow, I'm, let's say, I'm like a Spartan on the field, you understand, and I'm getting things done in the proper way. But if I'm tired today and I'm just giving myself away like this, even if I'm tired today, tomorrow will get worse. And it is the formula of impending disaster, you understand? For me, but even for the others around me, for family, especially those who are closest to me, because I don't have energy to even take care of my family. You understand? So you have to learn to take care of yourself, the spirit of self-preservation. Selfishness is another thing. Selfishness is just being damn mean, okay? You don't care about anything. This is a very narcissistic and sociopathic trait, okay? But self-preservation means learning to take care of yourself, being truthful to yourself, and being a lesson to other people to do so as well. Because let's say I've got a family member or friends coming to me and, Gian, come on, come out with us. We need you, or I need this favor. And I'm so tired. I've had a very long day. Okay, not today, but set out, let's say, a certain line of conduct for yourself to make people understand that even tomorrow is okay.
Yeah.
And for that tomorrow, you are really ready. Okay, and if you have people who surround you, who support you in this, and who understand this, this means that you have people around you that are applying the same concept to themselves as well. You understand, and this is when collective consciousness starts to work in a healthy way, because it is self-understanding, but it is understanding the other person and honoring even, let's say, the very nature and the situation of other people. Understanding oneself means understanding another person, but even respecting the boundaries of another person. And understanding that there is a time to receive a yes, and there is a time to receive a no, and there is a time to give a no, and there is a time to give a yes as well. And this is the foundation of a healthy collective circumstance and community.
What to do when that's the ideal situation that you're describing, but we're not living in ideal society at the moment, or like not everyone has those circumstances where people are, you know, conscious about what they're doing. What do you do when people around you are not conscious about it and they are very selfish maybe? What do you do in those cases?
Well, I just get along with my life and they get along with theirs.
What if it's your family members?
Well, you see, when it's family member, as I said, I don't permit these things to affect me much, okay? You see, it's a bit like educating children, spoiled children. And of course, if a situation like this has been going on for a long time, of course, the family members are used to this type of situation, okay? It's a comfort zone for them, okay? So you can't change a thing like this from day to night, okay? Because it may create a very strong resistance and make things even worse. Very unhealthy, toxic conflict may occur from this, okay? So we have to avoid this, okay? This toxic conflictual situation. But rather put yourself with family into a healthy conflictual situation, which means facing the situation, standing up for yourself. But it's rather like, let's give a drip of water today. Tomorrow, 2 drips. The day after tomorrow, 3 drips. But slowly, slowly, they don't notice these drips coming, okay? But they start thinking, a bit different today. But they don't give it any weight, okay? Let's say that you've said in one day yes 10 times. The next day you say yes 9 times and no 1 time. The next day you say yes 8 times and no 2 times. And the day after you say yes 7 times and no. You understand? So you should strategize yourself in a way to make this situation become a gradual enhancing situation for yourself and for family, where they get used to it after a while. Because if it's, let's say, day 1, yes 10 times, and day 2, no 10 times, it gets things, it's like throwing gasoline on the fire. You will only create a strong opposing resistance, okay? But if you start to make a very refined and intelligent and wise strategic plan, okay? Because we have to even create a strategic 3-dimensional plan in a wise way where our soul is backing us up. We know that it is a patient process. You have to go through it patiently. You observe it. But what is the difference? That day by day things are getting better. Things are getting better. Things are getting better. So as I said, 10 times yes. The next day, 9 times yes, 1 time no, and so and so. This is the metaphor, okay?
Yeah.
This is the metaphor.
And people get used to it slowly rather than you drastically make a change.
Yes,
and
this is the key. Because, it takes time to subconsciously tap into the minds of people, especially on family level, and especially when they are adults, you understand?
Yeah.
Or children in the forms of adults, very spoiled children in the forms of adults. But of course, it's a change that you actuate within yourself that then slowly reflects upon the others, you understand?
It's also, from what I'm gathering, like it also take us ourselves to say no to ourselves.
Yes, of course.
And to control ourselves, and not necessarily control in a
Yes.
like in a closed meaning of it, but
it's psychological gym, okay?
Yeah.
And if you go day 1 into a gym and you've never lifted weights before, and you can't go and you can't do the bench press with 60 kilos right away, it will crush you, okay? So you have to use your good common sense, where behind your good common sense, your soul is backing you up, and strategize yourself gradually. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah. Even with ourselves.
Of course, yes.
Or first we start with ourselves, and then we
Yes,
move
of
on
course.
to
And when
others.
when the result comes, the results may be small results at the beginning, okay? And the impatience of the ego may kick in and say, is that all? I want more. Too much, you're taking too much time. So what's the point? It's not worth it. It's not even making a consistent difference in the change of your life. So just give up. That's the ego, because that's the initial phase, okay? The shadow starts to come up and starts to challenge you. But always stay focused on the drips of water. Stay focused on that one yes to see the result that it brings. And the more you stay focused on the small positive result, the more you gain. And of course, this staying focused on the positive results means that you are giving value to yourself, because you are valuing the result.
So when we start doubting the process, that's
because
the first step. So we should know that this is the first step to change.
This is the first step to change, yes, because this is the first fundamental step to change. You have to break that ice, and that means focusing on the positive. Don't disfocus yourself on what the ego is showing you, okay? Focus on the result. Give value to the result. You're learning to give value to yourself, because the result is the reflection of you starting to build yourself up in an authentic way. And more will come. More and more.
what is the next step after ego kicks in and then you decide to continue?
The ego
What
will
happens next?
Well, the next step is that the ego will always kick in. It will always accompany you throughout your life. But slowly, slowly, it becomes your ally. It becomes the index of your spiritual growth. It becomes, let's say, somehow the opposing force that pushes you further forward. You understand? So at the beginning, it will try to pull you back. But the stronger and more assertive and more convinced you get, let's say, on your pathway with yourself, with your results, the ego in its oppositive force pushes you further, pushes you further, pushes you further. So the disadvantage becomes an advantage, becomes your strength to furtherly push yourself.
What would you advise for impatient people? How to overcome this?
Exactly what I was talking about. That's the advice. That's the best advice, okay? Because let's say the major issue for the holistic environment is that we are in a modern world. Everything moves fast, okay?
Yeah.
And the holistic environment reflects a very spiritual approach where you need patience to meditate, learn to yourself, learn to listen to yourself, learn to listen to your breathing. And of course, in a fast-paced world and people want to results quickly, the mind is programmed this way. It's very difficult initially to stay seated and to patiently observe yourself and to patiently observe how you are breathing, the nature of your breathing, the movement of your body, to go into this profound reflective modality, which then is meditation. Nowadays, it takes a bit more time because we're not living in a simple context anymore. And people, let's say, are more impatient nowadays. But this is the challenge. We have to learn to tame that part of ourselves, to quieten that hyperactive child, that hyperactive ego, to go back to the state of observing silently, listening in silence, losing the perception of time itself because we are so entangled in the perception of time, and then suddenly results will start to come.
Do you have any tools that can be easily, let's say, not easily, but accessible for people to use when they are trying to meditate even?
Okay, yes, there is a very simple tool, okay, that I like to leave to people when they come to see me for the very first time, okay? Two tools, okay? One is called a neurosynchronical technique that works very fast, and you can use it in the office as well, okay? It's a shamanic technique. And another one is just simple conscious breathing exercise, okay? It's not the classical harsh breath work where you are doing that breath work of fire or the dragon breath work or whatsoever, okay? It's simple, but it helps the mind to calm itself, and it helps you to go more into the reflective phase of yourself, self-reflection, which means learning to authentically think. Okay, you're connecting the mind to your inner self, to your soul, and it's very simple. You just have to sit down. You close your eyes, but you don't close them completely. They are slightly closed, where you permit just a little light to pass through, okay? Because now you're simulating the time in between daytime and nighttime. Because that's the type of light that automatically brings the mind into a state of calmness. When you are, let's say, sitting on a beach or on top of a mountain, you're in practically witnessing sunset or sunrise, you see that subtle light, which means that daytime is encountering the nighttime and vice versa, okay? For us shamans, it is the momentum where the spirit world encounters the invisible, our everyday world. The invisible encounters the visible. But it's a metaphor, really, okay? It puts the mind in automatically into a state of calm, but we can simulate this type of situation just slightly closing our eyes, okay? Our eyelids, but not totally closing them, just to permit some light to filter through. And then you can put your hands on your knees and just, or your hands open, because this is the position to receive, okay? Feel worthy to receive. Even body language is very important. When you open your hands on your knees like this, it is a gest of learning self-worthiness, okay? And then what do? You just breathe gently with your nose, you send the air to the tummy, and you breathe gently out with the mouth. Slowly. Slowly. And when you are in this phase, you can even imagine the waves of the ocean coming towards you when you are breathing in. And when you're breathing out with the mouth, the waves going backwards, because the sound of this breathing is white sound.
Mm-hmm.
And the white sound travels on a certain frequency that also calms down the mind. It just shuts down the rational mind, and it favors, let's say, the intuitive mind to start working, which is the access to the subconscious. So it is very similar to the sound of the waves of the ocean. It is white sound. So when you breathe in, you see these waves coming forward. When you breathe out, you see these waves going backwards. And you start to oscillate your body as well. Breathe in and breathe out, and your body starts to oscillate as well. Because it's as if that you are meditating in the waves of this ocean. And this helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is a very, very simple but very effective way to train our mind, the rational mind, to shut down and to go more into its reflective, intuitive state of calmness. Okay? And if you just do this, even 5 minutes before starting the day, it makes a difference. Okay? Of course, if you do it in the office, if you have time for yourself to do it even in the office, it helps a lot to stay focused and to stay introspective and to stay focused even on whatever you have to do, but in a calm and peaceful way. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
It helps you to overcome stress and anxiety. And then there is another exercise, okay, that I would like to share. If you put two fingers here in between your eyes like this,
Yeah.
okay, in between where the cavity of the nose encounters the eyes, and you put one finger on your forehead, okay, and one hand behind the head, okay, and if you breathe in and press the forehead with your fingers, and you press the back of your head with your hand, okay, the left hand here, the right hand behind, you breathe and you press both sides, you compress, and you breathe out and you let go, and you breathe in and you compress, and you breathe out and let go. And if you do it a few times, it makes a difference as well. Okay, so this is good exercise as well.
Mm-hmm. To calm down and to start to get into the meditation mode.
Of course. And this is a good exercise to do even before doing meditation as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a very rational and active mindset, if you do this exercise, just breathe in and compress behind and in front your head, and breathe out, and you do it at least 5 times or 10 times, and then you just close your eyes.
It gets you into the state.
It gets you into that state,
Yeah.
yes.
A very weird question I'm going to ask. When it's something that happened recently. My daughter came to me and she asked me, when somebody is breathing next to me,
Yeah.
I forget how to breathe like myself. I start breathing like them. And I was like, sometimes it happens to me, but it's weird that, you know, like when somebody's even sleeping next to you and they're breathing too loud, or you can hear them breathing, the way you breathe also gets interrupted and disrupted. And I was wondering, like, why is it happening like this? Is this empathy why is it we're so disrupted by it?
Well, this is empathy, and this is a type of empathy that commonly occurs in family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In family, there is a profound bond, okay, on energy level, on subconscious level. The subconscious creates energy ties, very profound and strong energy ties on family level, especially between mother and daughter, or mother and son, or son and father. So it's normal that whatever the mother feels physically, the daughter can have the same effect as well, a similar effect on her. Even distantly it can occur, even through the breathing as well. Breathing, of course, is a perfect example because, the breathing is that fundamental part of ourselves that makes us who we are, okay? When we breathe, we are simply who we are, okay? And of course, the importance of breathing in spirituality. And it's a clear sign of this very profound empathic bond, okay? Especially from the breathing.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just
No, there's nothing wrong. It's natural.
It's natural to feel
it's
this
natural
way.
and it's beautiful.
Okay.
It really denotes the profound link that you two have together, okay?
Yeah, because I've heard it from her, and I was wondering because I feel it sometimes, especially like with children, with my husband. I feel it sometimes, but then I don't. And sometimes it gets so, it disturbs me because then I cannot fall asleep. And then I'm like, did
Yes,
I
of
forget how
course.
to breathe? That's not okay. So then, you
No,
go
it's
back to,
it's the link. It's
yeah,
the subconscious link
okay.
between family members.
It's very interesting. That's something I thought about since we're talking about the
Okay.
breathing. And
Yes. Okay.
it's,
Okay.
okay. I'm overwhelmed with with the amount of information I received. I think it's what about, okay, so I have a question about sound, shamanic sound healing specifically, because I know some stuff about sound healing, and I think we all kind of like all this, videos and music that we hear, that's also part of sound healing. What is shamanic? What is difference between shamanic sound healing and the traditional sound healing?
Well, you see, when we're talking about the traditional sound healing, it comes from shamanic sound healing, by the way, because also the traditional sound healing has its ancient roots, okay? The crystal balls, the singing Tibetan balls, the gongs, all have their ancient roots in shamanic sound healing. Well, all I can say that shamanic sound healing is very primordial. It's very ancient. It has this very primordial feeling to it, okay? It's very tribal, okay? And it mainly works on spiritual empowerment, and it mainly works on the concept of overcoming fear, walking through your shadow to empower your light. So I can call it like the pathway of the spiritual warrior, okay? Because you don't just come and detoxify yourself from stress and anxiety. It takes you on a journey as well, a deep transformative journey that the rational mind cannot understand initially, okay? And I have my own personal approach, of course, from family background, but I have my own personal approach, my own personal touch to it, okay? Like I like to integrate the chants of the native Indians of America, Celtic chants, okay? Overtone throat chanting, of course, typical of the Nordic shamanism and the Eastern shamanism as well, okay? And the drumming, of course, and also a very particular instrument called the didgeridoo with the rattles. For the didgeridoo, I've been living with the Aborigines for 2 years, okay? And I've been part of their tribe in the Northern Territory. I was integrated as one of them because we recognize each other when we go around the world, okay? It's, it's we are spiritual family. So as soon as we encounter each other, it's an ancestral gathering, okay, a soul gathering. And I met the chief of this tribe in the north of Australia. It's a long story. And I was still with my ex-wife because she had the experience as well. And we were both integrated in their tribe. Okay, we were recognized as members of their tribe because it's spiritual family, okay? Because when we're talking about biological family, it's a thing. But when we are going into the mysteries of where we authentically come from source, we come from oneness, we come from the Great Spirit. We are souls, and we are all children of the Great Spirits, and as souls, we are all family. So this is the concept of the tribal concept, okay? And when they recognize you in this energy, in this vibe, you're welcomed, okay? And we were both initiated in their culture, and they have the form of shamanic culture. They have the antique shamanic culture is very, very old indeed. It's the oldest. We're talking about 60,000 years of shamanic tradition, of course, and especially in sound therapy, where the didgeridoo is the mother and the father of all sound healing instruments. Okay, it's a root hollowed out by termites, and they just find it on the ground, and then they work on it, and this instrument comes out, and it creates what is considered the sound of creation. Okay, and it is the first vibrational sound that has, let's say, the first vibrational sound of the divine that has determined, let's say, the outcome of creation, which is the Om. But it is produced through the didgeridoo. Okay, its original name is Idaki, and it's a continuous vibrational Om through circular breathing. And of course, I integrate my drumming and all my other chantings with this, and it is a very, very powerful combo indeed. You know, it's a unifying combo. So it's like hearing many tribes from different parts of the world around the receiver, receiving all this bombardment of beautiful, nourishing energy, okay? I can say that basically shamanic sound healing works on the spirit, of course. It works on our subtle etherical bodies, okay, because we have the soul, we have the astral body, we have the emotional body, we have the mental body, we have the chakras, of course, which is part of the astral. And of course, all this determines the very nature of our very human nature here on earth, of course. So let's say that the shamanic sound healing works on all these levels. It touches the soul. And touching the soul, it mentally invites the person to overcome the rational immediately, and the rational is overcome no matter what. They just relax and boom, they're spaced away. And the mind now connects to the soul that shows them, let's say, the essence of their spiritual being. And when the essence of the spiritual being comes out, it starts to heal them on all the other layers of their existence. The chakras are aligned, the astral body is purified, the aura irradiates even more. But beyond this, it also creates a physical effect as well, okay? Because I've had people coming with physical issues as well, like back pains and even problems, even blood value problems as well, all sorts of types of physical issues, and they have received benefits on this as well, because of course, when the sound works on these subtle layers, it provokes even an effect in the nervous system, okay? That regulates our immune system, of course, because the nervous system is very much connected to our subtle bodies and is very much affected, okay, from the conditions of our subconscious, okay? If we want to put it in one way. And when this healing process occurs, the nervous system just releases all the negative energies in the sense of stress, tension, and emotions. It just releases all of this, like smoke being released in the atmosphere, in the air. And the person feels totally relaxed, and the person starts to regain their regular sleep as well. And then the immune system starts to kick and starts to get empowered again, and starts to facilitate the healing of the physical body, of course. So this is what shamanic sound healing does, okay?
How would you identify that you need it and that it's going to be helpful and that your rational mind, because I think that's the big part of a challenge there, that you are so rational and you feel like, okay, this is, what is it all about, and how do you switch it off? I don't know if there's a...
Well, you see, the most important thing is giving yourself a chance, okay? Coming with an open heart and an open mind, okay? It's not like, okay, I've had this amazing therapy session with Gian, and since you're my friend and I see that you're in difficulty, go to Gian as well. I highly recommend you to go to Gian, but maybe that person is so rational and that person feels obliged to say yes to content the friend and turns up, and of course turns up with the opposing nature of the ego, okay? But all I can say is that when it's like this, no need to talk to the ego of the person, no need to convince the person. If a person turns up and thinks that they're not ready, or they don't even know why they are here, and they think that they are wasting their time, or they're here to content a family member or a friend that has pulled them by the leg to be here, we have to understand that nothing occurs occasionally. We are not made out of chaos. The universe isn't made out of chaos. It's not an occasional thing that is happening. We are living in a perfectly organized convergent system called universe, which is even multiverse, that operates in a convergent and organized way beyond human comprehension. Every single thing that occurs, even if I'm holding this glass, is part of a perfectly convergent system, okay? The atoms that moves, they move in a certain way. They converge in a certain way. We live in a perfectly organized convergent system. We are living in a multidimensional holographical reality, okay? And whatever occurs for a reason. So, of course, the person is here for a reason. So what? So you're here for a reason. Just enjoy the ride. And just lay down and just feel worthy to receive, of course. And what are the benefits? You will feel better after. Just trust. Okay, but once the shamanic music kicks in, the situation just flips from A to B. The person comes back in a certain state after. The person feels inevitably much better and free from stress. But of course, from there, it is the decision of the person to come back. But nothing occurs occasionally. People come with a challenging, rational mind, of course, and they start asking you certain questions. But you see, as a practitioner, there is nothing to justify. You know that you are doing what is part of your life experience, and you are sharing your authenticity. So no need to, let's say, entice yourself with the challenging questions of a rational or egoical mindset, but just get the job done. You're here, lay down, stay quiet, let the spirit do all the rest. Okay? Because we're not here to convince anyone. Okay? We're not here to, let's say, formulate convincing words to convince anyone into this type of belief, but we're just here to share our life experience according to what we have chosen to be, and we don't have to justify ourselves for this.
What would you advise? What would be your key takeaway advice from energy healing perspective and from shamanism perspective?
Okay, well, my perspective is that I've noticed that many energy healers, when they do energy healing practice, they feel somehow tired, okay, and drained away. And why? Because, we have to learn to overcome the susceptible part of the mind, which is quite suggestionable on the concept of the presence of negative people, okay? When we meet people, when we encounter people, we have to understand that these are people in needing. They come for us for a purpose, okay? And we have to learn to overcome, especially on subconscious level, and it's quite a long work, that side of ourselves that automatically puts us inevitably into some sort of judgmental state. Because this person has negative energy, this person may take away my energy, or his negative energy will interact with my energy, and at the end of the day, I may go home with a part of his energy disturbing me, with a backache. I feel tired, I feel drained. We have to step out of this concept, okay, because of this mindset. Because if you choose to be an energy healer, if you choose to be a holistic practitioner, you are choosing the pathway of the spiritual warrior, okay? And the spiritual warrior should learn to navigate in the muddy energies as well. And that means being fearless, okay? When we are not totally confident with ourselves in our nature of giving energy, okay, or in our spiritual nature of helping people, then what happens? The mind kicks in the concept of the lack of trust that then generates fear. The fear of absorbing whatsoever from another person. And it is mental suggestion. It's not that we are absorbing the energy of another person, but through this mental suggestion of the lack of self-confidence of who we are, what is happening? We are somatizing the effects of our own fear. When we encounter people in many different aspects, these are reflections. These can be reflections of our own inner conflict that we are invited to overcome. When I teach TQR to my students, we do certain activations, and we activate the energy field of the aura on a certain frequency called the frequency of Metatron. It is the ultraviolet frequency, okay? And it is the frequency of compassion and neutrality. And what does this frequency do? It creates a certain effect on the subconscious of the practitioner, of the student. And it makes them understand in the deepest of levels what being neutral and compassion, what being compassionate is all about. Compassion means observing in a neutral way and not letting yourself conditioned by the energy presence of another person in a judgmental way that comes from fear. Compassion means being neutral, and neutral means trusting yourself as the embodiment of the divine. And when you enter this type of mindset, you really start to understand how truly powerful you are. And when you truly start to understand how powerful you are, how powerful your soul is, enlightened by this divine great spirit, which is the divine essence of existence, you are the embodiment of this. At the end of the day, you don't care a damn if you've got John Wick as a client or if you've got Tony Soprano as a client. You're just getting the job done. Because when you've got this awareness activated through the energy field of the Archangel Metatron, it filters away all the negative side effects. But it is you in your power filtering away all the negative side effects, where the only thing that passes is the awareness that this person has quite a hasty background, you understand?
Yeah.
And the energy is helping this person to put it right. That's all.
What does it indicate when we, in a presence of certain people, we feel like, oh, it's very heavy energy, it's very light energy? What does it indicate to us? Because as far as I'm understanding, it's all about us, what we feel from the person rather than from the actual person has negative or positive energy.
Course.
So what does it indicate about us, to us? What does it signal about?
Well, when you start to become empathic, of course, you start to even understand through your feelings that energy can change in a certain room, okay? Because it's a gut feeling, it's an emotional feeling, you feel it, okay? And it also adjusts your attitude as well. It can even put yourself into conditioning your attitude, okay? Now, there are many sensitives, okay? Sensitive empaths that don't know that they are sensitive empaths. So they start to tap into this aspect of themselves, but then they start to feel overwhelmed, especially by negative energies, and they get frightened and they shut down that gift of themselves. They try not to use it, okay? But inevitably, it occurs, okay? It occurs. It can occur again, okay? Let's say that you enter a room and something terrible has happened, okay? And you're an empath and you've got your channels open, and you've got this empathic sensitivity to you, okay? And you're feeling an uncomfortable situation, right? Well, the first thing to understand is that you have to learn to observe it, okay? You have to learn to go into the analytical mindset. Observe it, study the process, find it interesting. And then you learn to master that aspect that initially overpowered you, because initially you were afraid. You see, everything is energy, okay? And of course, we are living in an energy context based upon electromagnetism, okay? And the electromagnetical field of the environments, of everything, has the tendency to absorb, okay, the energies on all levels. It creates some sort of, let's say, it registers or whatsoever the events on energy level, okay? And this energy reproduces itself, okay? It's like a ghost trapped in the room, okay? Because the electromagnetism has absorbed the energy of a terrible event, okay? And somehow it is trapped in the electromagnetical field of the room. Now, the empath should start to understand this nature, this aspect, okay, of how energy works, how the electromagnetical field of things work, how electromagnetism absorbs and recreates certain energetical patterns, okay? And step out of the mindset of spiritual attacks or energetical attacks. It's something to analyze, it's something to study, it's something to understand, it's something to take note of. And this helps a lot to overcome, let's say, the inability of a sensitive person to manage certain, let's say, emotional issues during certain, let's say, energetical encounters. When you see profilers, for an example, okay, because there are people like this that work for the police force, okay, and they work on cold cases. These are very highly empathical people that have honed their skills, and that it has taken them years to hone their skills to stay neutral, to stay as external observers, to gain information, because they know that the sensation is information, and the mind elaborates the sensation as information, and then a vision appears. They start taking note. But it takes years to hone this skill. But of course, you have to really learn to stay neutral, observe, get into the sensation, observe it at the same time. Learn to stay neutral. Don't judge the energy. As soon as you judge the energy, fear kicks in and it overwhelms you.
So when you enter the room, because that's like one way that I choose a place to live, let's say, like, or whatever, like place to live, place to work. I enter the room, and if I feel like it's a heavy energy, I usually leave, and I go look for another place where I feel
Of course.
light energy.
Yeah.
So is this correct way of doing it? Is it? I know there's no wrong or right, but is it, or it just means that there is something in that other room that I should be working on myself?
Well, I believe that there is something in that room which reflects something that you should be working on yourself.
Rather than running
Yes.
away from it.
Yes, it's an opportunity to work on yourself and to hone your skills, you understand?
And it applies same to people, right?
Yes.
That we deal
The
with
same
on
to
a daily.
people as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, it's not a question of, I feel the energy of this person negative and I'm not interacting with this person. It's a question of, I feel the energy of this person negative and what to do about it. Let's observe it and understand why. You see, we can all be negative without noticing it as well. Anyone, you can work on yourself spiritually, but you can also be negative to someone else without noticing it, because in life, we all go through certain phases of our lives, okay? And it's not because, this person is negative, I would rather avoid him, but this person is negative, but why? Let's take note, let's analyze, let's study. Oh, okay, this person is going through a moment of grief. You understand? So it's easy to judge and to go away rather than stay seated in the situation, analyze and understand, because it is a way even to furtherly understand ourselves.
Why does this emotion
Yes.
bothers us?
And to be more, and to hone our empathic skills towards others as well. Because if you're a practitioner, you receive people who are negative, of course, people who are in grief, people who are going through a divorce, you understand? So being empathic means don't judge the energy, accept it, analyze it, understand it, and the healing occurs both ways as well. It's a win-win. because as a win-win, you learn to understand yourself and you thoroughly hone your skills.
I'm overwhelmed. I can tell you that.
Okay. No,
I'm
it's okay.
overwhelmed with the amount of information, with the aha moments, and with all this information that you gave us, and it really makes me dive deep and think about even my interactions with others, and why things work certain way, and what they work for this way, rather than taking a perspective of, oh, these things are just happening around us and it doesn't have any meaning to us.
Yes, of
so
course,
we should not
of course.
put any meaning to it. But it's all about how we perceive stuff and why we perceive that stuff and what does it have to do with us. And I think when we flip it to ourselves rather than like blaming everybody around us and all the events that are happening to us,
Yes.
take it as a something that we need to have because it needs to change something in us.
Yes. And this gives us the fundamental thing that we all need as human beings on Earth, in a society, for community, for us, for family, a purpose.
Yeah.
You understand? A purpose in life that gives us an indication, that addresses us somewhere, rather than going around in a constant circle like an old boat.
Yeah, that's a very good metaphor on how to, because I can clearly envision that and clearly see that.
When you have this purpose, okay, based upon this enlightening concept, okay, that makes you understand the true sense of identity, who you are meant to be, you develop and you deliver a purpose, okay? Well, of course, it's like a Viking funeral of your old self. You're just seeing that old Viking boat roaming around in circles. Your old self is like an old dead person, and you just shoot the arrow with the flaming tip and burn it. And you break the circle and you see the land.
It's a lot.
Yes.
All I can say, it's a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It was mind-blowing, I can tell you that, definitely.
We both enjoyed ourselves.
Yes, that's all that matters.
Of course, of course, of course.